So welcome to our webcast. And today we have here Melissa Blocks from Scrum Alliance, the Chief Scrum Master, and to moderate the panel. In between, I would like to emphasize that this series of webcasts is a call to action for the World Agility Forum. It will happen in Lisbon, but also virtually. It will be also online on the 26th and 27th of September. We will have panels in the afternoon, and then in the night we will broadcast the dinner, the gala dinner with the awards. And later, what we have just seen, the video we just passed to you, it was about the conferences we had last year, and this year it's going to happen again. So on the 28th, Agile Human Factors, 29th, Business Agility, and on the 30th, Technical Agility. So that's the Experience Agile Week. Hope you can attend. And I wish you a great webinar, and I pass the ball to Melissa.
Thank you, Hugo. It's nice to see you all. We have some really interesting stories and conversations coming up for the next hour, and I'm really honored and excited to introduce our panelists to you who are going to share some stories, and then we'll just have some open conversation. So first, allow me to introduce our panelists. First, Judy Carlson, the Director of Software Engineering at Optum. She serves on the Optum Tech University team, a part of United Health Group. They are a Fortune 6 company, and she is passionate about women in technology, agile mindset, and influencing without authority. She has more than 20 years of technology experience in production support and transformation of systems. So thank you for being with us, Judy.
Thank you.
Also, Alan Taylor. Alan has worked in tech teams for over 30 years and with agile teams since 2008, leading large delivery groups, transformations, and working with development teams globally. In 2018, he joined Mercedes-Benz.io as a Scrum Master in Lisbon, Portugal. So thank you for being here, Alan. And then we have Åke Sunderland, joined Ericsson in 1989 at Group Function Technology, so the CTO office, with several tasks. He's a driver of the Ericsson Develop strategy, part-time teacher for internal product development leadership training, and project content lead for internal technology and development conferences. You were quite busy. So welcome to you as well, Åke.
Thank you, Melissa.
So we're going to begin with each of our panelists just telling us a little bit of their stories, of their organization. You know, the topic for today's webinar is Redefining Agile, Shift to Virtual and Return to Office. And it's no surprise to anyone on this webinar that the world has shifted significantly. In our sort of pre-webinar chat, we were sort of saying, you know, who knew 6 months ago that we would even be having a webinar like this today. So I'm really excited to hear some of these stories, and then we'll kind of go into some conversation. So Judy, would you like to kick us off and tell us a little bit about Optum?
Thank you very much, Melissa. Sure. Thanks for having me here today also. So I am a member of Optum. It is, along with United Healthcare, part of the United Health Group enterprise. So when I speak today, I'm going to be speaking at the United Health Group enterprise level. So United Health Group is a health services innovation company. We have a mission statement that reads, helping people live healthier lives and helping make the health system better for everyone. So this COVID-19, it's all about healthcare, all about people, and our mission to help where we can. So we were an essential service. We have about 120,000 healthcare frontline workers within our organization. So physicians, nurses, clinical staff, pharmacists. So they have been working full-time throughout the pandemic. We also have about 100,000 people that in March, when it came time to work from home, we had about 100,000 in US offices that we had to move to their home location. Luckily, we're an organization that really supports telecommuting, mobility. So we were fairly prepared to take on that large volume of people moving to work from home. And at one point, we had about 168,000 of our team members working from home. And we have a lot of lessons that we've learned during this period of time. And, you know, it's a lot about the people. We've learned collaboration, whether it's face-to-face or virtually. Everyone was equipped to meet when and where they needed to with the people that they needed to meet with. So our business teams, our technology teams, our operations teams, very successful in helping them being able to do that, and embracing innovation and delivering new and different solutions. So we had the opportunity to really deliver quickly. And when I say quickly, we were talking over a weekend or within a number of days versus the typical week or month delivery cadence. Collaborating across boundaries, as I mentioned, business, technology, operations, everybody coming together on a level playing field through virtual meetings and tools that were set up for us to utilize. And the way we recognized great work and great teams who stepped forward during this, producing and delivering just amazing. Even our frontline workers being innovative and offering up different solutions for frontline workers. But one of the more interesting things is people didn't stay within their role or their job description. They stepped out, and whatever skill was needed, if they possessed it, they were willing to share and help move the team forward and be able to deliver what our customers and team members really needed. So this has really impacted our culture and how our culture is going to move forward, in that we have this stronger collaboration that we haven't seen before. We have a quickly get to yes mentality. So we've broken down, removed a lot of the bureaucracy in our processes, and we've seen that we can do it. It's not a question of if any longer. We've proven it, and we now can use those points to say, you know, we've done this before, we can do it again, and really enable and empower our teams. And we've built trust or rebuilt trust over this period of time across our team members. So really shoring up and changing our culture for the future. But I think two of the key things are that have been commented on is our CEO, David Wickman. As soon as we started work from home, he started a daily 15-minute stand-up. And now he's moved it to once a week. But a couple of comments he has said is, I want technology working like this all the time. And the proactive work to Agile has made the biggest difference. So a couple really key things that all the foundational work that we did really paid off here at this point in time. And to get our team back into the office, we're just, you know, I'm going to talk about the 100,000 that were in US offices. We were sent a survey right away to self-identify if we were high risk. And it was just a yes/no question. And those people that identified as high risk have the opportunity to continue to work from home until there's a vaccine or until some other change. So we had about 25% of that 100,000 that will continue to work from home. But the remainder we're bringing back in waves, and we've set up an application that people check in daily with. It's a symptom checker to, you know, check your temperature, your symptoms, identify if you're good to come back into work. So that gives us that data perspective, a big picture of, do we have any hot spots? Is there a facility that might have something that we need to take a closer look at within a community? We've also stood up childcare and transportation benefits. So those folks coming back to work and they're still struggling with childcare, having resources available to help them search and find something that's available in their area. And then those people that take public transportation and may want to not utilize that at this point in time, we have a benefit to get them back to the office too. We also have some welcome kits that we're giving our team members. So a couple cloth washable masks, reusable masks, hand sanitizer, and just something that they can have when they are coming back to the office. So when they're in community areas, common areas, and they cannot practice physical distancing, they have the masks available. But we've also reconfigured offices so that if you think of an A-B checkerboard type pattern, making sure our team members are able to physically distance when they are at their desks, and limiting the number of people in our meeting room. Also making sure all our desks and public spaces are cleaned every night. So really ensuring our team members feel safe coming back into the environment when it's their turn and when they're identified to come back. So so far it's working well. We've had teams coming back in. The A-B checkerboard pattern, it's a 2-week on, 2-week off, and they rotate through the office to ensure we are able to maintain the physical distancing. So like any Agile, I'm sure we'll get feedback and learn where we can improve as we move into this further. So thank you.
That's beautiful, Judy. What I heard, like the message through all of that, was you put people first as an organization, and then sort of almost in response to that, people are stepping outside of, their job descriptions. They're stepping up as individuals and as teams. And I think there's a lot of power in that. And I also heard,
yes,
we've done a lot of work in terms of becoming more agile before any of this happened, and now it's paying off. So that's really beautiful.
It is. Yep. Reinforcing everything. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I took a lot of notes. I should mention to our viewers, if you do see me sort of looking down, I'm just taking notes so that I don't forget some of the great things that we've said, so we can talk about them later. So with that, again, thank you, Judy. Alan,
thank you.
Would you be willing to share some stories with us about what's going on at mercedes-benz.io?
Sure. So I'll be talking from a slightly different perspective because I think pretty much everyone in the world has heard of Mercedes-Benz. But Mercedes-Benz.io, what's that? So Mercedes-Benz has an interesting approach to innovation, and specifically technology innovation. They have a whole series of separate wholly owned companies, daughter companies of Mercedes, who specialize in specific innovation areas. And so Mercedes-Benz.io specializes in software innovation, and particularly in relation to websites and apps. We are the kind of the digital arm. So we don't do stuff in the cars. The Mercedes-Benz website in any country, then probably that's what we've done. So it gives us an interesting perspective. We're on the smaller scale, deliberately on a smaller scale. We're with only 400 and something people. 2 and a bit years ago when I joined in Portugal, we were about 30 people. So we're working on a different scale, which is nice, and also with a responsive organization. So what the heck does that mean? We run holacracy, which is one of these flat structure models, and that means we can adapt and change our organization, and the responsibilities kind of flow through the organization differently and can change quite rapidly. And I think that prepared us really well for this unexpected event, because we weren't reliant on somebody at the top telling us what to do in all cases. Sure, we had our MDs who took actions around overall communications and some of the the stuff that needed to be done in relation to office moves, which is kind of interesting. So we were just in the process of moving offices when lockdown started in Portugal. So that was kind of a little bit of an issue to deal with. But again, everyone kind of got on board with that. We had people volunteer to go in and move stuff out of offices and pack stuff up. And meanwhile, the teams could kind of get on with stuff. So the team I was mostly working with at the time, we have people in Portugal, in Germany, in Stuttgart, and also some remote people in Poland. And so we were used to working as a distributed remote team. Sure, we had people who were used to getting into a meeting room when we did a sprint change, but even then, more than half the team were remote from the room, and so that was pretty seamless for us in many ways. Talking about kind of getting back into the office, so for us, because being fully remote has worked pretty well. I mean, we had a short pause of a few weeks in recruiting, but it really was a short pause. We get on with slightly adapted remote recruiting. And we've done remote onboarding of people very successfully. So that's all flowed smoothly. We started off opening an office. So we found a new office in Lisbon and opened that up. Meanwhile, we also managed to open up our office in Stuttgart and also in Berlin. But in a very helpful way for people, I think. So what we're saying to people is the offices are there. You're very welcome to use them with a whole set of associated protocols. I won't go into lots of detail, but nobody's obliged to use them. So personally, I haven't been in the office since sometime in February, and I think, you know, when the timing's right and the advantages are there, then I'm looking forward to getting back in there. And there are some things that, yeah, it's just better to be there and meet with people. But we don't need to put pressure on people because we know they can work very well remotely. And so as we look forward, you know, we look forward to potentially a different situation where we have a greater percentage of people working remotely.
Excellent. So I hear actually some similar themes as Judy in terms of, you know, sort of people first, and again the same theme of, well, we already put people first, and, you know, we already had some fluidity of the organization that sort of was very beneficial as you move forward. I imagine there might be some interesting questions later about the moving offices portion of it, and, you know, how that looked. So keep your questions coming in the Q&A. I see a couple showing up there already. Thank you, Alan. And then next, not last but not least, let's hear from Oke, who is going to talk to us about his organization and what that has looked like at Ericsson.
All right, so thank you, Melissa. My company, I'm working in Ericsson, and our business is telecommunications, mobile broadband, and of course 5G. And we are a company that's almost exactly 100,000 at the moment. We have an R&D of 24,000, and that R&D is distributed over around 30 R&D sites, from Seoul in the east to Silicon Valley in the west. So we are kind of naturally used to working in time zones. We are working in teams, virtual teams. So when this struck us, we were fortunate to have that maturity in the company, and it took a week or two to get the IT systems in place, but that went fairly well. So we had a good position there, you might say, because we had a matureness when it comes to working remote, but we had no idea how that would kind of work in the situation that came. And I think Ericsson surprised ourselves and quite many. Ericsson acted very quickly. Already late January, we started to kind of pull the brake. I saw the one announcement that came already in early February that we were stepping down from the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, which is a huge event for us. And that actually at that time generated some criticism. A few weeks later, the whole event was cancelled, and now everyone understands that all such events were cancelled. But it come late January, February, that it wasn't kind of fully the awareness wasn't there. But Ericsson kind of pulled that brake, and the prime focus that they had there was the health and well-being of employees, and also our customers, and meetings in places like Mobile World Congress was not kind of okay. So that has been the trademark, or the kind of theme from the beginning, the health and well-being of our developers. So basically we have 85,000, so 85% of our company employees are working remotely as of now, and most of them had done that since early March. We have a plan to return to office. It's a 3-step plan, but in reality, what we kind of hear at the moment is that the bulk of the step 3 of that plan, the bulk of people is very close to year end, maybe before year end or maybe after year end. So Ericsson basically said that they were among the first to close down or start working remote, and will be among the last to return to business. So that has, and constantly with the focus of health and well-being of our staff, and I think that has been very appreciated. Other things that has done materialized during the journey was kind of remote working, remote collaboration handbook that our Agile Coach Network had ready already in late March, early April. That has been kind of shared with throughout the company, providing guidance on both psychological safety and well-being, and how to run meetings virtually, and a lot of other good practical hands-on advice, and that has also been very appreciated. So I think the business that we're in, we're lucky from one perspective, that our products are increasingly requested. We had the Q2 report just a couple of days ago, and that was a positive surprise. So we have actually grown, even compared to last year, despite Corona. So that was very well received. So we see that our product is kind of part of the critical infrastructure in society, and the need is actually increased as a result of this pandemic and the work from home, and the kind of changes in the networks and how they are built and how they are used, and people are working in other places physically than they were, etc., etc. That drives a lot of change in the mobile networks. So a lot of change, but the mental kind of model that we have in Ericsson is that we are not going back within short. It'll probably take another 6 months. But so far we have been able to keep up working in the teams. I mean, 24,000 R&D engineers is a fairly large group of people working virtually in virtual teams. So I shouldn't say that we are surprised, but this was something that no one saw coming. So we didn't know how we would in reality be able to tackle this situation, but the very, very short summary is so far so good. Fingers crossed on that one.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Again, similar themes there around, hey, we were already partially there. You know, we were working virtually, and clearly also people first in your organization, evidenced by sort of stepping back early, very, very early, and going back as late as possible, it sounds like. So I'll start with a question for all three of you as we sort of move into the Q&A. Is there anything that has changed or taken place in the last, 4 months or so that you actually see sticking around, as we talk about this new normal, things that you see that, hey, maybe we won't change this, maybe this will continue?
So one fun thing that we did, I think, in response to people feeling some isolation, was a lot of teams started doing a kind of a virtual coffee break where they'd get together and just have a chat. And we even did one kind of across the company where we did little one-to-ones to make sure we got in contact with everyone, just see how they're doing, whether there was anything that could be done to help. And so I think that's something that we might continue, maybe in a different form. Maybe we'll do more real coffee breaks, but make the effort to do it rather than just rely on it happening naturally.
I have to agree with that, Alan. Yeah, I think we've done a few happy hours and coffee chats and things that you wouldn't routinely do. I think having virtual meetings introduced us to our teammates at a level that no one really had the opportunity to meet them at that level before. So meeting pets, meeting spouses and children, and seeing where they live, and so it opened up I think a whole new level of communication and support and trust, and just a lot of really good things that I don't think people want to let go of now that they've experienced it.
Something I don't know if it's similar, but an activity that we did that kind of people responded very, very well to was that we did a global hackathon in I think it was late March, early April. And that idea came from our CEO and our CTO, and it came very quickly, but people kind of jumped on that immediately and felt that this was a good thing. So I think there was more than 600 persons who participated, and we launched 130 ideas, I think, were kind of finalized. But an interesting thing was that we saw teams formed across these functional borders. It was not just kind of teams within R&D with the developers. It was persons who teamed up with kind of marketing people or sales people or supply people, actually in true virtual teams that kind of started to build bridges across borders. And I think I was very happy to see that. But that's also a thing that where people felt that this is a good thing to do. This brings us together, and I think that has kind of strengthened the kind of Ericsson approach, or the company culture has been strengthened, and also coming back to this kind of very quick, very strong statements and the actions. So the walk that we have seen, we had good talk, but we also have seen some good walk from the company leadership, and I think that has started to add a lot of trust in that they are sincere, and that is very well received. So I think that's good. I think when something unexpectedly like this hits you, you are tested, and I think the talk is important, but what you actually do is even more important. And the walk we've seen so far is actually something that I think has made us stronger. From a culture point of view, it has definitely made us stronger. So far, so good on that one.
That's a really good point, and I think yeah, one of the things I've loved that we've been able to do is as well is to kind of give something back to the community through some of those collaboration. Yeah, we got a group of the guys together. Our MD kind of had some contacts in the Red Cross, and we were able to really quickly build a testing app in collaboration with them. So that kind of, you know, that feels good to think we're in a better position because of you know, just the way we are as a company. We're more digital, but we can kind of reach out and help some people who are struggling more.
There are a couple of questions here that are semi-related. So I'm going to give you one question from Tori, and then I'm going to follow it up with another one. So Tori asked, how have any of your organizations been measuring the engagement or health and welfare of your employees? And has it affected your goal setting intervals, your cadences during the pandemic at all?
I can start. So we do an employee engagement survey, and it occurs twice a year. And then we review the results and see what opportunities we might have. So the survey went out this last time, I believe it was March, April. So right about the time when people were doing, you know, going to home instead of being at work. So we're just getting the results now and starting to go through that. And we'll do another one here, August, September timeframe later in the year. And so we'll be able to start seeing if there's any changes in the metrics or measurements of how people respond to those questions. But I think I think, Alan, you mentioned this too, but reaching out to people more frequently. So having those one-on-ones, talking to folks, making sure they are okay, and having the group conversations. So I think we've heightened our one-on-ones with our managers, our team activities, conversations, having those stand-ups virtually. Everybody's on the call, everybody has a chance to talk. So I think it opened up some of our stand-ups that may not have, you know, stand-ups where people were calling in because some of them were telecommuters or in a different country. Well, now everyone's level set. They're all together on that same call instead of being in separate parts during the meeting. So I think it put a level so everybody had an opportunity to talk to and be asked if they're okay. So it's been going really well, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach because it's not about the numbers, it's about the people, and so yeah, in those one-on-one conversations, you get a chance to really understand what people might be struggling with, and you know, you see the person who's home on their own, you see the person who's kind of struggling with the kids running around them. You hear about things you can do to help, like you discover you're talking to a few people and they're saying, hey, yeah, so I'm just putting together the desk I bought from IKEA, and you think, oh, we should do something to help people with that. Aside from that, yeah, we do the numbers. So we have a kind of a mood board, which is a daily thing, pings you a message every day. You tell it how you're feeling today. You kind of share some comments. Everyone can contribute to that. So again, it's not just a kind of bottom up thing. It's a cross company thing. And then that's good. No, don't get me wrong, but I think there's more value in those one-to-one conversations.
I can say from an Ericsson point of view that we do this quarterly employee engagement surveys, and both the two that has been done this year has come out strong. The second one came out very strong. So that was kind of what I referred to when I said that the company culture has, I believe, been strengthened. Just before vacation here, we did a work environment survey. This is a new thing, a very big survey focusing a lot on working remotely, what is the pros and cons, how do people look at that? And this was an mandatory survey for all the employees within Ericsson, and I have not seen the result yet. But if I would take a guess, going back to working 5 days a week at the office as the normal, I doubt that will be the new normal. I think we will see something else. We will see some sustained change coming from this. To what extent is yet too early to say, but I don't think that we will kind of go back to as it was, or whatever you should call it. That's my personal guess on the last one there.
You could not have given me a more perfect segue. So, I mean, I hear a lot of positivity actually coming out of this. I mean, I hear that your teams are doing well and that people are engaged and people are on, maybe the same footing now where they weren't before. So the highest voted question in the Q&A is, if your companies are working well amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, then why do your organizations feel the need to return back to the office?
That question has arisen in conversations, so I've heard that one before. I think there's also something we all miss. We do miss some of that face-to-face camaraderie, hallway conversations, even though they may be physically distanced now, and some of the innovation and creativity that comes from having just people meeting together face to face. So we want to give people that opportunity to maybe restore some of that in a different way, and because there are people that do miss being in that work environment, being in that environment with other people and seeing them on a regular basis. So getting ourselves back into something that is new and different, a different way to provide that opportunity to others.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's definitely some people who miss it a lot, and as soon as we kind of opened the new office and said, okay, it's there, you can go and use it if you want to. There are some people you saw straight away in there. They couldn't wait for it to open. Equally, there are other people who are like, yeah, I'm doing fine, thanks. And so that's the key for me, is to kind of have that flexibility. There's some things like kind of company get-togethers, weekly team get-togethers, doing sprint change remotely. I mean, some teams are quite used to it, some teams have to do it, some teams really miss being able to sit in a room. I miss sitting with, so I can just hear somebody saying something and go, oh, hey, well, let's have a chat about that. So I think the key for me is don't force people back into the office. Give people the opportunities, let it happen, and it will happen.
I totally agree with that, and I mean, we have heard a lot of positive comments around remote work, working from home, etc. But I mean, just to balance it a little bit, there is a dimension short when we work from home. Definitely, I feel it, and I think a lot of people feel it. What has been kind of mandatory or necessary to do is that the discipline when it comes to all these meetings, we sit in webinar meetings, Teams meetings, day in, day out, there is a call for an increased discipline, also to cut down the length of the meetings. Think very carefully. I mean, do you need to book an hour for a meeting? I mean, I think we need to kind of be a bit more sharp on running these meetings, being more focused, being more well prepared for those, so that we can kind of I mean, as a rule of thumb, I mean, cut meeting length with at least 50%. I think that's necessary, because there are a lot of people who sit from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon in constant back-to-back web meetings, and that is not good. That is not sustainable. So there is a balance here that we must find. I don't know exactly where it is, but those kind of learnings have got quite a lot of focus as well, and we need to kind of respect that and change accordingly.
Sure. I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. There are a couple questions about sort of showing up in those meetings. So for any of you, are there guidelines about using using video in your virtual meetings? Are people required to? Are they doing it anyway? And is there anything that you're sort of doing, whether it's guidelines or just encouragement and coaching, to help people be more present?
So make the technology work better is always the first step. So one of the very first things that we did when we had people remote working was we accelerated a rollout of Teams to the place Skype. And that was a really good move. In terms of mandatory rules, you kind of get the vibe. But I think that no, we don't have a mandatory rule, but we certainly have teams where it's a standard, and so there's a little bit of peer pressure within teams that as soon as a few people start doing it and going, hey, we'd like to see you, and it kind of encourages people to do it more. Equally, we have some teams who, for whatever reasons, just don't want to do it, and that's okay. I think personally they lose something by not doing that, but we're not going to force it. I think it will change in time as somebody from another team where they're used to using video joins that team and goes, hey guys, why are your cameras all off?
Yep, totally agree with that. We had when we first had everyone work from home, there was a rumor that started going around saying, oh, the bandwidth is being impacted by having videos on, and don't use videos. And that was proven incorrect. It was announced at a town hall. Video is perfectly fine. So I, like Alan, I think it's, some teams love it. They have it on all the time. They want to use it. Others, maybe it's a hit or miss. So it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to do it. It's mandatory or anything, but it is a recommendation. So we can, having that kind of face-to-face as much as you can in a virtual meeting. So highly recommended, but not mandatory.
And it's the same way in Ericsson. Our remote working handbook that was put together also says that, I mean, as a minimum, use it when you start the meeting, when you introduce yourself. That's kind of the minimum level. If you keep it on all the time, that we see a great variety there. We also use Teams globally now within Ericsson, and now we have a version where you can see 9 attendees face, so that actually increased people's willingness to have video on. From a capacity point of view, we have seen no disadvantages. Our installation of Teams is obviously sufficient to handle video being used if you like it, but we see a variety in using it.
Have any of your organizations sort of gone an extra mile in terms of providing equipment to employees at home, or just allowing them to go get their own equipment that was at the office? How is that equipment provided if they don't have it?
Maybe I can start there. From Ericsson, if you want your screen, you want your keyboard, you want your chair, that is perfectly all right. And there is a routine to make that happen, so you can meet with security at the office and kind of be let in and get that stuff out. So that was quite quickly put in place. So yes, that is a possibility, I would say, globally in Ericsson.
Yeah, I would say we did have people that were still using desktops when we had to work from home. So there was a period of time where we had to get those replaced with laptops and make it easy for them to transition to work from home. But people have gone back into the office to get extra monitors, cameras, different headsets. So that has been made available.
Yeah, and for us as well. Yeah, I think having a large part of our company being developers, the very first thing they scream at you is, "I can't develop on a laptop screen." And so yeah, we have a lot of monitors in people's homes now, several on people's desks in some cases.
Yeah. I sort of asked that question in between some connecting questions for reason. So we were talking about, sort of being live on video and being present and being willing to, sort of show up, in a certain way. And I think sometimes that doesn't happen if people don't have proper equipment, or if, something's going on in their home that, dogs and kids. And Judy, I love that you sort of referred to that earlier, that our humanity has been sort of reintroduced and like upped a level. Like you have to be whole self when you are working from home, because I don't know anyone who can keep their children from occasionally bursting into their rooms or their offices. But along that same thread, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, but Niha has a question about which tools and techniques would you recommend to make participants more present in the moment and more proactive in speaking and sharing their views? So beyond making sure they have the equipment and, also, hey, we're all here together with our dogs and our kids, what else can we do to sort of invite people to speak up?
And for me, that's not even really a remote question. I see that all the time in teams as a Scrum Master, that if you have 8 people in a room, then you might have 2 of them dominating the conversation. So it's about number one, making it a safe space for people, but also I think it helps if you have somebody in the facilitator role, and obviously often for an agile team that'll be Scrum Master, Agile Coach, some role like that, and so they're actually watching the conversation, trying not to get too much drawn into it directly, but looking for who's missing from the conversation, looking for the opportunity to say, hey Joao, what do you think of that? So I think, yeah, good facilitation is the key in that.
Cool. I'm actually going to keep asking, and I have sort of one for each one of you. The question is really, we'd like to know if you've seen any dip at all in productivity of their teams. And even I'll add to this, like, how do you know if there was a dip in productivity?
We have not seen much. There was a few months, I would say in April and May, that there was a kind of general feeling that the already planned work was proceeding quite well, but the challenges was in starting new work, doing the kind of roadmap, the scenario. I mean, what is upcoming, those parts. I have heard less questions about that the last few months. But then, I mean, we have parts in Ericsson where we have needed to experiment as well. I mean, usually when we take new networks into operations, we send people on site. That has been a normal for decades, and now we can't do that. So now we have to do that remotely as well, and that was a big experiment actually. But an experiment that was kind of acceptable to do now during these circumstances, which was very good, and that has played out fantastically, actually. So, have we seen a dip in productivity? Nothing systemic, no. I mean, there might be random cases. I mean, we have hundreds of teams, thousands of teams, but nothing kind of systemic that has been raised on company level so far. Fingers crossed.
In short, would the two of you concur with that, or have you had different experiences?
Yeah.
Pretty
Sorry.
similar, yeah. We do measure productivity. It's kind of a controversial measure within our tech organization, but we did see actually an uptick. So, you know, you have freedom to work any time of the day that you want to. So I don't know if that kind of impacted some of the metrics, but we did see a bit of an uptick.
And I think same experience of, for the first couple of months, everybody was asking about it, everybody was worried about it, and now nobody asks because they see it just works.
Sure. So one of the questions that sort of comes to mind for me when I'm thinking about productivity is things that might impact productivity would be sort of resistance to change. And so one of the questions is, Judy, you mentioned earlier sort of the get to yes mentality, and how have you and the organization sort of managed the change and people who might be resistant, even if they didn't know that they were resistant, if that makes sense, you know?
Sure. You know, I think everyone was pleasantly surprised that the work from home moved forward as well as it did. Like I said, the lessons learned that we had are all actually very positive as far as collaborating and getting to that yes. I think there was more of a sense of urgency that maybe we didn't feel before when we were in the office. And now all of a sudden it's telehealth. How do we get that, you know, that the priority for that bumped up? How do we make that happen almost overnight? Things that were in our backlog that maybe not had been such a priority before have now been escalated, and everybody, I think, just felt something different and really wanted to help and participate in any way that they could. So it seemed to be more of a positive and left us with a feeling of we don't want to go back. We've removed some of the bureaucracy, some of the processes have improved, and how do we keep that going? How do we stay motivated and keep that going?
Beautiful. Okay, so we only have a couple of minutes left. I want to end this on sort of a fun note. And only share if you have this. Please don't feel like you have to like dig deep and make it up. But if you have a particularly funny story about, you know, like I'm sure we all remember the newscaster who was giving his newscast, and his first one child came in, then another child came in, and his wife came in. Do you have any particularly funny stories that are safe to share just from the last couple of months?
I have my door locked behind me as we speak, because otherwise my cats break in. And my cats have actively participated in several video calls, and indeed their views have been sought in meetings.
I love it. We have a team member whose cat always, like, all you ever see is his tail. I mean, you never see the whole cat. He just sort of walks this way. It's very funny. Any other funny stories from the past couple months here?
Well, I think that mute button has become either a real friend to some folks or an enemy. You know, there's always something you're hearing in the background that you probably weren't supposed to hear. So yeah, that the mute button for everybody, I think, has been a learning experience.
Yes, I have two colleagues who are husband and wife, and work in the same room. And when I'm talking the call with him, usually I can hear her more loudly than I can hear her.
That's wonderful.
Sorry, Sonia.
All right. All right. Well, I think this is sort of taking us to our last few minutes here. So I just want to take the time to thank all three of our panelists, Alan, Judy, and Oke, for joining us today, sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and just your stories. This is a time that no one anticipated, and that we can only make ourselves better if we are listening to each other and we are reaching out to other companies and learning from their experiences. So I really appreciate all three of you for your vulnerability and your sharing in your story. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Ugo to wrap us up.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience. So this webcast series is the dimensions that Steve Denning wrote in the beginning of this disruption from COVID-19. We have one more webcast in the beginning of September. We'll let you know by spreading the word and send you an email after this webcast. We are also recording is broadcasting, and will be recording to be online, available for anyone on demand on our Facebook webpage. The conferences that we are talking about is the World Agility Forum. It will be, all the conferences will be virtually available, and also for people that can travel perhaps, and we'll have a place here in Lisbon to accommodate everyone physically also. So it will be on the 26th and 27th of September. On the 26th, the panels in the afternoon, it will be open with Steve Denning, will be the main keynote. And on the 27th, Daryl Rigby. Later on the 26th, we have the awards ceremony that will be also live broadcasted. Then on the 28th, it will be about Agile Human Factors, a partnership also with the civilians and militaries from Portuguese Special Forces, Army, Navy, and Air Force. And also NATO Lessons Learned Department. Then we have on the 29th of September, Business Agility with the participation of Howard, the Chief Product Owner of Scrum Alliance, among several other speakers. And on the third and last day, September 30th, we will have Technical Agility. So I hope all of you can join us in this Agile movement and these conferences that we are holding. This is the 6th year for Experience Agile, the 3rd for World Agility, and the 2nd for Agile Human Factors. So with all this, I would wish you, even above with all the constraints we have, I want to say once again, thank you for all the panelists, all the participants. I wish you a great vacations, even with the several restrictions, but try to get some rest. And we'll be back in September, and we hope to see you soon in our conferences. By saying this, I also let you a small video from our conference. So thank you so much. See you soon. Stay safe. Okay. So goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.